Hey, let's get into it. And for those of you all joining us with this episode, please make sure you go back and watch the previous episodes so you'll understand everything that's going down in this one. And I do want to say, after this episode, we will be on hiatus until next Monday, and then we'll jump back into it. Just because I know a lot of people will be traveling for the holiday. People have birthdays, memorials, and the holidays can be a little stressful for people. But let's get into it. Let's start with David Steiner, a New Jersey real estate developer and former AIPAC president. He's a board member of the National Jewish Democratic Council, CEO of Steiner Equities Group, owner of Steiner Studios, and commissioner for the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. He is Jewish, and for 40 years, he was a minority partner in Samuel Sutler. He was also the president and chair of Sutler Construction, which was founded in 1907 by his father, Hyman Sutler. Don't ask me why his last name is Steiner and his daddy's last name is Sutler, okay? We see a lot of that around here, okay? In 1996, after the death of his father, Hyman Sutler, he left and started Steiner Equities. In December of 1996, he became a member of the Electoral College in New Jersey. He was one of 15 that voted for the Clinton-Gore ticket. November 1992, he resigned from AIPAC after Chaim Katz recorded him bragging about his influence over United States policy. Once again, if you did not see that episode where we talked about the whole espionage and things being recorded, go back and watch. Now that's him in a nutshell. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty of Zionism within the United States and Zionism within what we now know as Israel. With Miss Henrietta Szold. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's Szold. If I mispronounce it, my apologies. I've heard so many different pronunciations. I'm taking the middle ground. So we'll just say Szold. December 21st, 1860 to February 13th, 1945. She is a United States Jewish leader and the founder of the Hadassah. She is the daughter of a rabbi, and she comes from a German-speaking Hungarian immigrant family. In 1877, she graduated high school, and for 15 years at the Mrs. Adams School, and Mrs. is M-I-S-S-E-S, Mrs. Adams's School for Girls Academy in Baltimore, she taught French, German, Latin, science, math, and history. She also taught classes in her father's synagogue after studying with him for many years. In 1889, she organized a nighttime history class for new Jewish immigrants. And that got so wildly popular, they had to have offshoots of it. In 1893, she helped an immigrant group organize an organization called Hebrews Zion. Now, there's certain historians that say that may have been the first Zionist organization in the United States. There are other historians that say that that's not true. I couldn't pinpoint enough confirmed dates to say if that's true or not. Also in 1893, she became the editorial secretary of the Jewish Publication Society, and she spent 23 years in said position. Her contributions to this society were that she ensured that there were publications of the English versions of The Ethics of Judaism by Moritz Lazarus, The Renaissance of Hebrew Literature by Nahum Schlautz, and the publication of a revised edition of the 5 volumes of the History of Jews. That's the name of the volumes, by Heinrich Gretz. In 1899, she worked on the start of the American Jewish Yearbook. From 1904 to 1908, she was the sole editor of the American Jewish Yearbook. She also contributed articles to the Jewish Encyclopedia. She was an early member of the Federation of American Zionists, and in 1899, she began her legacy of being an executive council member of that organization. Also in 1899, she began contributing to the monthly Maccabean. In 1902, after her father's death, she and her mother moved to New York City, and she began taking classes at the Jewish Theological Seminary. In 1909, it was the first time she visited Palestine, and it was then that she was convinced that Palestine, being a Jewish homeland, was of the greatest importance, even though Palestine was the third location that was tossed out to the global Jewish community. And it wasn't until Great Britain was like, hey, this is yours, that they started saying that it was their ancestral homeland and that it was biblically determined to them. Oh, I wasn't supposed to talk about that? Are you new here? In 1910, she became the secretary of the Federation of American Zionists. Are you catching a pattern here? That it seems like a lot of people were born and groomed into these positions. That on February 24th, 1912, she led the Hadassah Study Circle. She had been a member since 1907, and since 1907, she had formed the Hadassah chapter of the Daughters of Zion. In 1914, the Hadassah chapter of the Daughters of Zion was renamed to Hadassah. In 1916, she resigned from the Jewish Publication Society. Now, Judge Julian W. Mack and Justice Louis D. Brandeis ensured that she was provided with a modest income. Between the outburst of Zionist Jewish individuals across the globe and looking at their history, a lot of these stereotypes aren't stereotypes. Let's keep going. In 1918, she led the organizing of the American Zionist Medical Unit, which was sponsored by her organization, Hadassah, the Zionist Organization of America, the American Jewish Joint Distribution Committee. And the whole goal was to forward to Palestine 44 health personnel and approximately 400 tons of supplies and equipment to Palestine. In 1920, while in Palestine, she spent 3 years raising money and supervising said unit. In 1922, she reorganized Hadassah into a medical organization. She organized and became the first president of the Histadrut Nashim Ivriat. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I tried. Oh, my cuff fell out. Tried to practice it. So if I did not get it right, my apologies. I tried. In 1926, she resigned as president of Hadassah, 1927 to 1930, and 1931 to 1945, she was in Palestine. And from 1931 to 1933, she was a member of the executive committee for in I'm sorry. She was a member of the executive committee in Vad Lumi of Knesset. In 1933, she became the director of Youth Aliyah, which was an agency created to rescue Jewish children from Nazi Germany and bring them to Palestine. Mhm. She also founded Leman Ha-Yalid, which is an institution dedicated to research and child welfare. She did that later in life. After her death, it was renamed to the Szold Foundation. In 1945, she died in the Hadassah Hebrew University Hospital, which was a hospital that she helped bring into fruition. Isn't it amazing that after people talk to people from Israel, or they go to, as it was when she was visiting Palestine, they decide that the third choice, the one that was handed over to them by a government that wasn't the Palestinian government at the time, they've decided is their ancestral. Well, when we reconvene next week, we'll get into the rest of the organizations that are under the umbrella or connected to the umbrella that is APAC. As always, I appreciate you and thank you for watching. And until next time.